Hey y'all, I'm Tim from Mr. Maple, and you may know that I love the color yellow with Japanese maples. But did you know that I had another first love with Japanese maples? Stay tuned. Guys, I'm Tim from MrMaple.com. We do over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples, mail order, and we ship directly to your door. And we do the Mr. Maple Show here on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed and smash that like button. We really appreciate you. So you're probably wondering, Tim loves yellow. He does a dance that's yellow. What was his first love with Japanese maples? The angel feather Japanese maples. What am I talking about? Corbin Geldern describes this as the Sessilifolium group. This is the group of Japanese maples that have basically a stalkless stem that comes out. Sessilifolium derived from the botany term sessility. I can barely even pronounce that, but it means stalkless. So basically the lobes of the leaf, each of the lobes divide back and look like almost individual leaves. And so it gives this really feathery approach. Now, Hagaroro is probably one of the most popular of the selection. It's one of the selections that's been around for quite a while. Yano's book for maples. Masayoshi Yano was a really good friend of ours. He passed away recently. And he had Yano's book for maples. He says that Hagaroro was introduced in 1882. So, I mean, this is a cultivar that's been around for quite a while. It's a smaller growing Japanese maple that typically, a Veritree says it can get 6 to 8 foot in 10 years. And so it's not something that typically gets very big. One of the funny things is, though, Matt and I, we love seeing old Japanese maples. And I've been a member of the UBC Maple Forum for years, and I posted large, giant Japanese maples here in East Flat Rock that were just ginormous. And one of the contributors, and who's on the UBC Forum all the time, Math, he said there was a Hagaroro that was planted in 1900 at Westernburg Arboretum, which is one of the first plantings of Japanese maples in Western civilization. And in 2009, so we're talking 109 years later, it was nearly 50 feet tall. That's insane. Because trees never stop growing. But Hagaroro, it just has this uniqueness to it. It's got this feather-like leaf structure, and it's an upright tree. I like this grouping because it's unique. These are the Japanese maple weirdos that we love. They don't look like a traditional Japanese maple. They've got everything you love about Japanese maples, but the leaf structure makes you think there's something different going on. We've done some series here on the Mr. Maple Show on Japanese maple weirdos. These definitely fit in that category of weirdos. Hagaroro, it actually is Japanese for a Japanese angel's dress that typically would have feathers all over it. And it's like an angel kimono, essentially, that's got feathers all over it. And that's what people think about when they see these trees. It looks like feathers, like an angel's feathers. And each and every lobe of the leaf gives a very decorative, it almost gives like a appeal of an upright lace leaf Japanese maple, although it is not. The leaf structure can be very unique, and I fell in love with these. There's also a variety called Koshimino. Now, Koshimino is a green upright like Hagaroro, but it has all the characteristics of Hagaroro, but it grows faster. So it's a little more vigorous form. We've offered that from time to time here on Mr. Maple. One of the newer selections is Hanezu Hagaroro. And this one is a rock star in my opinion. It combines the color yellow and the Sessilifolium group, the angel feather group. So that's why I love this tree quite a bit. It leaves out in the spring. It's also called the Orange Hagaroro because it leaves out with a little bit of an orange color, and then it goes to a yellow color. And that yellow color holds long throughout the season. And it is just a showstopper out there in the garden. It can actually get wider than it does tall. So it's more of a shrub-like form, where many of the other ones in this group are actually more of a tall, upright selection. And so this fits in a lot of people's gardens, and it gives you that feathery appearance, and you've got the yellow color. So what else could you love about this plant, right? I mean, there's not a lot of these angel feather groups. in this angel feather group. So if you're looking to start a unique collection of Japanese maples, we're talking about 8 different selections today. There's not a lot of these angel feather groups, so it's an easy way to get into collecting something that's a little odd and unique and something that's fun. Because, you know, these aren't common Japanese maples. They're going to be that Master Gardener stump plant that somebody's going to say, what in the world is that? So they add that extra unique interest out there in the garden. Now the next one that is really unique is Beni Hagaroro. We talked about Hagaroro before being a green upright. This is just like that, but it's red. And so in the springtime, you've got a bright red color out there in the landscape. And when I first got Beni Hagaroro, I didn't realize how quickly this tree was going to grow. One of our friends had brought it back from Japan, and Matt and I got it from him in New Jersey at one of Ed Shin's maple showings. And we put it in the ground at Maplewood Gardens, and the tree took off. I mean, it grew like a weed, and it's beautiful, and it gives you red color on top of that. So it's almost like a Shinda Sojo that's a little bit darker color version of a Hagaroro, because it puts on this amazing display of color in the spring, and then it goes to a unique shade of blue-green mid to late spring. And then during the summer months, you get flashes of red new growth coming across this tree all summer long. A bright crimson fall color. And the other thing that surprised me about Beni Hagaroro is that it doesn't get very wide. It's kept very narrow in its shape so far. I think over time it will get wider, but Beni Hagaroro has been a showstopper for me in combining the Sessilifolium trait that I love and some good red color out there. So it gives you that open, that sort of airy feel of lace leaf wood with red color and upright. That's a winner. Now, guys, the next one is one that I tracked down for years. And we may offer it again at Mr. Maple at some point. But it's called Acer Palmatum Hagaroro. And this, to me, was the holy grail for years trying to find it. And then when I found it, I haven't produced it that much after. And the reason being is it's a variegated Sessilifolium. So it is like a Ritano Nishiki style variegation on a Sessilifolium leaf. But when you have a 2 or 3 gallon plant, there's very little variegation on the plant unless you're pruning on it to promote variegation. I've done plenty of videos on how to prune the Ritano Nishiki style variegation to promote variegation. You can definitely do that. If you get a Hagaroro, you can definitely do that. But it requires a lot more work on Hagaroro to even see much variegation at all. I've had a 7 gallon plant out in the nursery that had 2 splotches of variegation on it. And it doesn't revert, but it's not showing the variegation. So on the actual side of putting out a lot of variegation, Hagaroro doesn't do it unless you're going to work for it and give it lots of pruning. It was a selection from 1930 that people have thought was unique and different because you can get some good photographs of it, of getting that unique variegation. There needs to be an improvement made on Hagaroro that is a little more like a Ritano Nishiki that gives you more variegation so you're not having to prune constantly to really show out. But it is a really cool plant that is extremely rare. Now, Vercage Jacuspottus, it's a mouthful. It was a selection by our friend Dave Vercade. And again, we were at one of NJ Acer's, Ed and Debbie Shin's maple gatherings in New Jersey. And Dave Vercade was there. And he recently, this was one of his first times he had introduced and was selling at this maple gathering, Vercage Jacuspottus. This was a chance seedling that he'd found, and I believe I'd heard people say he found it at Nancy Vermeulen's as this sort of apricot color. And it's an apricot Sessilifolium. It gives some really unique vibes of colors out there. It's much shorter and denser than something like Hagaroro, but it's more upright than something like Hanezu Hagaroro. And to me, it's put on lots of amazing color, and it keeps putting on unique color all throughout the season with apricots and pink reds, that it is such a colorful Sessilifolium. It's almost like the Mila of Sessilifolium because it's hard to describe all the colors that this tree can provide. Of the angel feather groups, it's one of my favorite. And that's saying a lot because we've got a yellow, we got a bright red, we had a variegated one that I took forever for me to track down. So this was an amazing plant. And we waited till the last moment and went and talked Dave Vercade into buying a Vercade Jacus Potus in New Jersey. And it was his brand new thing, but it was a fresh graft. I mean, the plant was this big, and everyone laughed at us because it sat in our cup holder in our SUV all the way from Wall, New Jersey, all the way back here to Hendersonville, North Carolina, to East Flat Rock, North Carolina. So that little first tree made it all the way down the cup holder, and because we protected it and kept it safe the whole way, we have sort of made Vercade Jacus popular in the nursery trade today because of that. We've got to a lot of other nurseries, sold a lot mail order, and because of that, a lot of people are growing Vercade Jacus Potus. It was actually named after Dave Vercade's daughter, Jacqueline, and Jacus Potus was sort of his, joking name for his daughter. So, a fun little plant that is pretty unique and different. Now, the next one is one of my favorite ones in this group, and I love everything in this group. The next one is Yamato Hagaroro. You may not have heard of this one. It's one we've offered a few times here at Mr. Maple. It is basically the Sumagaki version of a angel feather group. It's got that angel feather leaf, but it gets purple nails, purple border all around the edges of the leaf in the early spring in a dramatic fashion that will grab your attention. With a little bit of a yellow-green eye, it is extremely showy in the spring. It's one of those plants that was on my bucket list of making sure that we get more in production here. And it is a rock star out there in the garden. It's got a nice upright form, grows very similar to Hagaroro itself. And again, this was an introduction by Masayoshi Yano himself. It's kind of interesting. In Yano's book for maples, he doesn't always say introduced by Masayoshi Yano in the description, or I found this. He'll sometimes say this was found among Hagaroro seedlings, but then he'll have, who introduced it in the one little spot, and he'll just say Yano. And you're like, okay. I mean, he's very modest about how he talks about his introductions, and it is an amazing introduction, Yamato Hagaroro. Now, number 8 is one that was found at World Maple Park in Japan. But it's not a Masayoshi Yano introduction. Masayoshi Yano created World Maple Park. But when Matt and I got to go visit World Maple Park, we went and visited Masayoshi Yano, and he took us around and toured us around his entire facilities. Showed us all of his introductions, took us around, and he said, "Oh, is there anything that you would like?" And I said, "Is there a chance we could collect some seed?" So he took us to his back greenhouse, and he had a Sessilifolium, a Hagaroro style, a angel feather group Japanese maple that he'd collected off of his Acer oliveranum, the same oliveranum that was the mother to hot sauce and hot tamale. And we were like, that's interesting. So Matt and I asked if we could collect seed off of that Acer oliveranum in the front that was the mother to those and his angel feather group. He said, sure. And lo and behold, Hot Chicken was born. And this is an Acer oliveranum that's part of our Heat Seeker series at Mr. Maple. It was born in Japan, introduced by us here at Mr. Maple, and it is an oliveranum version of a Sessilifolium. So you get everything you love about having that extra heat tolerance. You get some amazing spring colors that are like some like pink salmons in there in the early spring with some lime green veins. You top that off with that angel feather leaf structure, and it is outstanding. Now, with these angel feather leaf structures, you often have that leaf that's all the way divided back to the actual leaf stalk. So it looks like everything is stalkless. But then you also have some leaves that can happen on the plant that will look a little more fan-like. So it's got some unique foliage on Hot Chicken, and it's been upright for us, it's been vigorous, it's been extremely heat tolerant, And I'm hoping it'll be just as hardy as hot sauce and hot tamale. People have loved those. We've been growing those part of our Heat Seeker series at Mr. Maple. They go along with hot blonde and hot rod. And hot chicken is the new one to the group in that angel feather group. Now, there's not been a lot of selections in this angel feather group. Like I talked about, here's 8. I could probably think of 1 or 2 more that I've had, but they don't have a lot of distinguishable characteristics. There can be so much work done in this group. If you're looking to find unique and different Japanese maples, start collecting seed off of these angel feather groups. I mean, there's basically 8 here, and we can find so much more in this group and expand it. It's a fun group of Japanese maples that I really enjoy because of how unique these plants are. They are weirdos, and you got to be a weirdo if you love Japanese maples. And these just speak to that plant geek. If you say this is a Japanese maple and you're like, that doesn't look like one, you're like, huh. And I think I've got to have one of those. And that's how we've collected all these different varieties of Japanese maples. But the angel feather group, they were my first love when it comes to Japanese maples, and I still love them quite a bit. I hope you've enjoyed today's video on this angel feather group of Japanese maples. It's a unique group that I hope you think about trying to collect them all like we have. Take care, God bless, and have a great day.